Hey guys, welcome back. In the shop, got my truck in here. The other two trucks are done. Between you seeing this video, there's still going to be a couple more videos of those trucks coming. But I have got a front wheel bearing issue, and it's got a rumble to it. Now you can just spinning the drum like it sits there, I can hear a rumble, and you can feel it when you're driving. Now, I don't know if you're going to be able to hear this, but we'll try. So, the fan is on over there. So, yeah. Now, some of you may be tempted to say, well, that's because you drive your truck around at 70, 80 miles an hour everywhere, and that may partially be true. However, I don't think it is, because the wheel bearings on the other side are fine, and all the rears are fine, and this one hub is the only one that has a Chinese wheel bearing in it. Now, I changed, if I remember correctly, well, relying on my memory again from years ago, I think I replaced the inner wheel bearing and race with a Chinese one, because that's all that was available in town at the time and I needed it. I found that my inner bearing, the race had gotten, not the race, but the cage had gotten really loose, and some of the rollers were pitted just from age and probably some corrosion before I got it. So all I could find in town at the time was a Chinese bearing and race from Advance Auto Parts, and that's what I put in it. And I think that is the cause of this. I think that Chinese wheel bearing just has not been able to hold up. Because I've got other bearings in here that are most likely original bearings that have been in it since 1969. Now, I did replace the others, the fronts on the other side, with good American-made bearings, Timkins, I believe, or SKFs, even longer before I put this Chinese one in. Now, I know one of the bearings on this side, it's either the inner or the outer, is still an original bearing and race. So we're about to find out which one has gone bad. And I do have, right here, all new ones, inners and outers. And if you're curious about the numbers, I'll give them to you. The outer bearing is a 392, and that would work for SKF or National. The races, both inner and outer, are the same. It's a 3920 SKF. The inner bearing is a 3994, and like I said, same for the inner race, 3920. So I'm going to tear this apart and see what we find. All right. So here's what I found with the wheel bearing. What I found was that I can't get the damn thing off. Let me explain why. I told you guys a few videos ago that when I came back, a lot of my tools are missing. Especially, and most importantly, my 8.3-inch spindle nut socket for these trucks. Now, when I bought that, like a decade ago or so, I bought it at Napa in town, and they had it on the wall hanging. They don't carry those anymore, and nobody in this town or the next town or the next town or the next town has one either. The only option I was afforded was to order one from Amazon. That's what even the guys at the tools places told me. Order one from Amazon and wait. Well, I didn't have time to wait. Because I needed to do the hubs on those two other trucks. So I remembered that my buddy Larry, the machinist over in Rose Pine, he had bought a Deuce from me years ago, and he serviced his own hubs because he bought it untouched from us, basically, and he did all his own work. I painted it for him later, but I figured I'd go ask him. I know he sold his Deuce, but maybe he still had a socket, and he did. But his socket is this jam up solid steel machined one right here that he made. Now it fit from what he told me, all the hub nuts on his truck just fine. It fits snug, like a machined precision instrument would, right? But on those two trucks, it wouldn't go on the nuts. Even with a hammer, I couldn't beat it on. So I took it back over to him, and I had him open it up a little bit, like 10 thousandths or so, make it exactly 3 inches instead of 2 15/16. And it worked for those two trucks. Now I get to my truck, and once again, it won't even try to go on the spindle nuts. Now, the spindle nuts that have been used on these trucks are not machined nuts. They're stamped sheet steel, and then they're threaded. So they are not precision made fasteners in any way, shape, or form. So apparently there's a pretty wide variation in size. And I remember my 3-inch socket fitting the nuts on my truck much better, than, much more snug than some of the ones on other trucks. So I think what we have is a variation on the nut size on the spindles of these trucks from like 2 15/16 to somewhere around 3 1/16. Because it's just, there's no other reason. I know, there's different contractors, different manufacturers, different years that they made the nuts. Obviously, these trucks were made for 50-something years. And, there's probably a lot of die and tool wear in there, too, where they were making the nuts. So, I can't get this off. Today is Monday. I leave out back for South Korea again on Wednesday. So, I don't have time to order another spindle nut socket, even if I wanted to now. And eventually I will, of course. It's just, I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't. So, I'm going to leave it like this. But I'm going to remember, obviously, that I have a front wheel bearing that needs attention. And next time I come back, whenever that may be, I'm most likely, almost 100% sure, I will not have access to the shop again. I would have liked to change it right here where I've got all, a nice concrete slab and a jack, and all my tools are able to be disorganized, but still where I can find them on the floor. Not in my toolboxes anymore, but it would have been nice to be able to do it in here out of the sun on a slab. Yeah, but that's not going to happen. So let this be a lesson to you guys. You know what parts you should carry on you. I always carry a full set of wheel bearings in races. I've got a 20mm ammo can in the bed that's just parts. Got an extra brake master cylinder, extra wheel cylinders, extra quart of brake fluid, some wheel bearings, some grease, roll of shop towels. That box is just for parts. I used to have a extra headlight switch in there, an extra blinker switch, extra flasher module, just common stuff that you might need on the road for a deuce. So you should carry stuff, and you should make sure that the tools you have on the truck are the right tools to do the job that you need to do, if you need to do it. Because you do not want to be stuck on the road, on the side of the road, with a blown master cylinder or a wheel bearing that's gone bad, and not have the parts or the tools to replace it. You've got everything you need. You can fix almost anything on these trucks right on the shoulder of the road. But yeah, I guess it's a good lesson to you in preparedness and what you should keep with you. Sucks that this lesson has to be at my expense, but it's not my first run of shitty luck or strange, stupid things happening to me. So I thought for sure that socket would slide right on and I'd have this done in an hour or less, but no. So I guess I'm gonna use the next couple days to run around and see a couple last family members I haven't been able to see yet this trip, and I'll park the Deuce up again for another however long until I can come back, and hopefully next time I can get it fixed. I just have to maintain, watch my speed. I'm not going to be running it 70 or 80 miles an hour on it like this. I have been, that's because I knew I was going to replace it in a day or two. Anyway, one last thing, I suppose. When you do your front hubs, you do not need an outer axle seal, an outer hub seal. You don't get oil in that, so there's no need for the seal. And if you use a gasket there, it's good, but that's also another point where you don't actually need one, because you've got so many bolts in that flange. You really, if anything, you might end up with a little staining from grease seep out around it, but you're not going to get like rainwater in it and stuff like that. It's not going to be leaking oil out on the ground or anything like that. I do have gaskets on mine, but that's because I had a ton of them. It is better in any case, if you're going to seal that, to use a gasket over silicone. Silicone works, but it's just this pain to clean up next time you take it apart. So, and yes, I know you saw that empty bolt hole with a dirt dauber nest in it. That bolt broke off years ago. Last time I serviced this hub, I broke off with a 3/8 short ratchet. I was tightening it by hand just to snug everything up before I hit it with an impact, and it snapped off. So I left it in there because I have two brand new front hubs that are going to go on this with F700 rotors and a front disc brake kit. Yeah, I'm not worried about getting that bolt out. So, thanks for watching, guys. I know it's a little bit of rambling and just complaining, but it's important for you to see kind of the stuff you can run into with a deuce and a half. So, appreciate you watching. Check out our sponsors in the comments below, as always. Or not the comments, but the description. I always mess that up. And we'll see you on the next one.